Many Marxists are in despair in this era, and the Frankfurt School that we're going to have a bit of a look at in this talk actually is in some way the movement of despair, both within Marxism and within Western thinking. Yet this victory in defeat and defeat in victory that we have all around us is something that I want to look at. In England, in the early part of the 20th century, intellectuals of left and right often used to debate with each other. This is really no longer possible now, 80, 90 years on. G.K. Chesterton, Hilaire Belloc, Shaw and Wells knew each other well, often had debates with each other. The irony is that if you said to them or their audiences that we would have, in the early part of the new millennium, a left-wing capitalist society, people would have said, you're mad! You know, the idea that the market can adopt the values of the folded-out, libertarian, slightly soft, but not entirely so, left, would have been regarded as perverse by almost any social and ideological commentator of that era. But it's what we've got, and it's all around us, and it's sort of in the ether, it's all pervasive. Even to cut against it in a very minor way is to create a shock somewhere. Certainly if you're anyone of any reputation or any foreknowledge in the culture, and you make a remark which is incorrect, and you're known, and you ventilated it as such, there's a tremor in the web. And my interpretation of this is that hard Marxism, stroke Marxist-Leninism and various anarchistic and other variants, often to one side of it, have failed. But the trajectory of the ideology itself has succeeded, has morphed, and has transfigured itself in a new way. You've had the left has come into the centre, taken it, turned it around, and what we call liberalism now, either with a small or a large L, is not the liberalism of 50 to 60 years ago. It's not even the liberalism of 150 years ago. The Protestant ideological moralism that underpinned liberal ideas of a traditional sort has been ripped out. So it's become a materialist and secularist ideology prone to infiltration and change by forces from its own radical left. One of the things that's most germane to the Frankfurt School is the Frankfurt School repudiates those elements of communist practice that liberals don't like. The harshness, the camps, the belief in struggle, the secret police, the art of the people and the crushing out of anything that people don't like. Wyszynski screaming that ex-comrades should be killed, beheaded, and their families tortured before they die. All in the name of love and humanity and peace. The French Communist Party organ was l'humanité, humanity. Marx was determined to reshape not just the nature of the left, but the nature of philosophy and the Europe of his time and the world for all time. His type of trajectory relates to a particular view of society that certain intellectuals have. So this entire mass of theory that begins with Marx is part of the idea that intellectuals can totally dominate society. I went to an intellectual salon, run by a continental European, of course, when I was 18, and all the intellectuals were talking about ordinary people. Because that is the class division if you're an intellectual. There are those who live for the mind and ordinary people who don't. So they have their own mental class division within that. And Marx, in his own way, was a radical twist. He believed that theory could dominate life and social process to such a degree that it could change the world and even human nature forever. One of the important things about Marxism is its total and utter break with the past. Its total and utter break with all religious ideas. There is nothing supernatural. They're just human theories and myths within language. There is nothing prior to man. There are no eternal values whatsoever. Everything is in the now, and everything is based on materialistic precepts which we predetermine every aspect of life. Marx emerged really first in a group of radical German intellectuals called the Free Ones, the Freien, who used to meet in a beer cellar in the 1840s. In the 1840s, of course, liberalism and nationalism went together as ideologies. Now, 150 years on, their daggers drawn. But in that group in the 1840s, there were gathered some of the most radical, let's change the world intellectuals in Germany, in Central Europe. Rothbard and Otto Strauss have been forgotten. Feuerbach's only remembered because Marx wrote an essay about him. Max Stirner is remembered. for one book he wrote about extreme individualism. But in the corner of the paintings of the free ones, as they gathered in this cellar, there's a tall Gentile, Engels, the factory owner, the financier of the theorist, and Marx, then with an enormous black beard, because he was very young then. Marx's idea is you had to smash all the theory, particularly all the progressive theory, that predated him. That's why he began with the German ideology. He began with groundwork, Grundrisse, and the German ideology. You must clear away all these false and fake progressive ideas based on liberal thinking, bourgeois semantics, and utopianism. Everything must be based upon science and upon matter, and must be provable, and must be empirical. He believed that intellectuals could so interpret the changes in society that they could master the consciousness of a society, change it, and shift it, and force it in directions that even hadn't entirely been predicated on the theory.